Okay, call the meeting to order. Molly, if it looks like I can't read, it's because I can't read. I have severe macular degeneration, and it's tough. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting, which was not last meeting, since it was not a meeting, official meeting, but from the one before that. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second, please.
Second.
Any comments, discussion, changes necessary? All those in favor of approval, please raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
They've moved. Next is acknowledgement of donation from Gregory James for $2,500 to the Deer and Tick Committee. He's done this several times, if not multiple times. And I just wanted recognized in the minutes that we appreciate any and all donations, and especially his. And Jessica, did you send him a letter thanking him?
We did.
Thank you very much. But let's recognize it in the minutes, okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right, thank you. Bo Payne's report.
I don't really have anything for you because we're kind of out of my realm of things for this
Right,
point
how about
here.
final numbers on Deer
So
Harbor?
I had them, did we not send that out after that non-meeting?
I don't think so, Bo, but I could be wrong, okay?
I know I had distributed them here for the
Right,
meeting.
which I did not see.
I can send that
Yeah,
to Jess and make sure it goes,
and they were down, I assume?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have them in front of me right this second.
Right,
but,
okay.
yeah, way down. Lowest they've been in the 10 years I've been doing the program.
Right, okay. That was on both recreational harvest and culling?
Yeah, recreational nuisance, venison donation, everything.
You emailed it to me, but if this is what you gave out at the last.
Yeah, so that's fine. If you'll permit me, then I'll just do a recap of what I would have done at the last meeting. We had it. So this was the update that I was going to give on 4/3. 25, let me just make sure this is right. Yes, it is. Okay, it just has the wrong number on there, wrong date. So we're down 50 deer total for the reported harvest from October 1st to March 31st. We had 45 deer, so that was 236 if anybody is
The total number.
looking for the number right this second. Right, so that's the total number that's reported to us, which we know is not the total number of deer taken, right?
Right. And I would suggest, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, Bo, is that we're getting less people reporting to us.
Absolutely.
Okay, recreational people are less and less are reporting to us. They've sort of lost interest and or responsibility to do that. Okay, I'm not sure why. but-
Yeah, I think it's been a slight change in the, I guess, demographics of the people who are hunting, right?
Probably,
Some
yeah.
higher reporting individuals are either harvesting less, not harvesting at all. You know, they represented groups of hunters that would then also share information, right? Like you and your crew, and you and your crew, and
Right,
so if you
right,
take
right,
one person out of that equation, then you lose two or three along with them, whether or not they continue hunting or not.
Right.
No. So the numbers, the actual harvest numbers are definitely down, right? There's no doubt about that. But the reporting rate is also decreasing as well.
I also think it's because people are using that app more and they're just like directly reporting, to the state, and then they forget, oh yeah, like local community wants to know. Because I did remind a few people and they were like, oh wow, I totally forgot.
Right, and then, I
I
think
think I did
that,
mine late.
I think also was that, those that were reporting were
Yeah.
people that were part of setting this whole program up. And we're very much said that we had the meetings and we got their input and everything else. So they really bought into the program and the local knowledge, local knowing of how many deer we were taking and what we were doing with that information. And we were trying to protect the hunters from, so they knew what was going on and stuff like that. So I think that sort of changed as some of the older guys have gotten out of the game and some of the younger guys have probably gotten into it, but they're not part of the old school.
Is there a way to remind hunters to report if they're willing
Maybe on
to
that
shelter
platform.
islands?
So if they enroll in the program, right, in the town's program, which is just granted access, right? That's really all it is. we close the loop by you request a hunt on a property, and then if you are successful, you're required to report that to us. We ask those people, right, if you're hunting on private property, to report whatever you harvest on that private property. You're not required to. You're required to report that to DEC, but you're not required to report that to any local authority, but we ask for that. And as people report information, right? Okay, I hunted on this town property yesterday and I took a doe. Like, I'll use you, Doc, as an example, right? Hey, did your buddy fill in the blank hunt, get anything on private property yesterday? He wasn't hunting with you. So we try to have that feedback loop, but, I mean, I don't know how we would force somebody to do that.
Yeah, just as a reminder,
Right.
Well, do we get, or can we get deer harvest numbers for Shelter Island versus the county? I know you can get it for the county.
Yeah.
Can you get it from the DEC?
Yeah, and actually, I just got an email this morning that they just released those statistics.
It might be nice to just look at that anyhow, to see if the reported numbers have changed compared to previous reported numbers. Not to our numbers, but previous DEC reported numbers.
Yeah.
See if there is a trend in that at all. Okay.
Also, the old list that we used to use when we used to have meetings, like hunter meetings, we still have that. We could, like, just with all the hunters, we could.
Oh, right.
Just the old list, just say, hey,
Right,
you're still
right.
hunting,
Right.
don't forget to report.
All together, right, yep. So you had asked about the culling, which took place February and March. We had 45 deer that we took. That was down from 68 last year. That was our Nucos, and I think one or two deer from a few other people, just recreational hunters. That's down from our peak of 260 or so during that period of time, right? So significant drop off. We still run the raffle period, which is not much in the way of an incentive at this point, I don't think. We have like one person that maintains his effort to stay in the raffle every period.
and what are the months again for the management program? When do we
February,
run it,
March.
like you're talking about the raffle? And
So the raffle is the duration of the entire season. So October 1st to March 31st. Right, that's our season, right? So that incorporates the 3 months of bow only, 1 month of bow and firearms, and then 2 months of nuisance wildlife control culling. Right? Under the
nothing April to September.
Nothing April to September, correct.
A month of.
So recreational archery season is all of October, all of November, and all of December. Then in January, it's archery and firearms, shotgun only. Shotgun and muzzle loader, technically, to be fully accurate. And then in February and March is when we quote-unquote nuisance hunt under the authority of a deer damage permit issued by the DEC.
That's just shocking.
That's shotgun, crossbow, vertical bow, any tool that they allow us to use, we use based on the considerations relating to the property, the location of neighbors, all that sort of stuff, right? We try to work that out. The DEC allows us a little flexibility there. And so we try to choose what's most prudent and effective.
But Suffolk County does not allow high-powered
There's
rifles.
no rifles, right? You can't use rifles. That's not an option.
Firearm goes for.
Well, it goes too far.
That's there is also, just for posterity's sake, there's also a brief antlerless only, archery only season that takes place in mid-September for about 10 days. In mid-September, we have not traditionally taken part in that the past 2 years that they've offered that at the town program level, right? Private people can go out and hunt on private property and do what they want, but we don't get fired up in that period of time.
These numbers include the one that hit my car a couple weeks ago.
These numbers don't include that one, but next year's numbers would. Yes, yes, yeah.
And we run a check station at Mashomick during the shotgun season?
Mashomick
I
runs the check
run
station.
a check station for
the Neshomic hunters.
Only the Mashama hunters.
Yeah, because it's mostly we're collecting, it's not an official DEC check station anymore. We used to run an official DEC check station, correct, Bo? Like back in the day,
Check Station Joe.
Check Station Joe. But now I run the check station and we're just collecting information for our records of the demographics of deer that we're collecting.
And Cody, out of interest, how was your harvest this year?
It was down significantly from the year prior. I think we took 70-ish,
With the same number of hunters, more or less?
same number of hunters, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that the previous year we had a massed year with our
Right,
oaks.
right.
And then this year, I have no data to back this up. This is just me being a Benton woman, but I believe it had something to do with the drought. Because we ended up in such a severe drought in November and early December.
Right.
All the deer just disappeared from the preserve. They moved out to places where they could find places that are being irrigated with water. So there were just not deer on the property.
Okay. Yeah, that's part of the problem with trying to treat this as a science. There's so many variables in these environmental science, studies that it's very difficult to know what causes what. And so, okay.
So we had two, we continued to run the NUCO program. We had two new NUCOs who were active. We had, as we have always had, we have more than the number that actually go out initially, sign up, if you will, provide information. So we had 4 who were originally going to participate, only 2 actually participated. As we have done for the past couple of years, right? We target areas from target deer from high priority areas. So either underhunted or unhunted areas during the recreational season, places that we either can't get into or just decide it's not prudent to get into during the recreational season. And then we emphasize within those areas trying to harvest adult females because that has, as we know, an outsized return on investment when it comes to deer reduction. So that's kind of what we're going for.
The two NUCOs that didn't do anything, did they tell you why they didn't participate?
One needed a hip replacement.
Is that good?
One really doing it. He actually continued to hunt, just not to that level. He just went.
They were both island people?
No, one's Southampton resident. Yep. And then the other one, I don't really know. I think he was just too busy with work. He planned to get involved and then was doing a house renovation and so on and so forth. So didn't really ask why they don't participate. But
Again, I didn't know if there's anything that could be done to help them participate.
Right.
But
I don't-
if life gets in the way,
right.
Which seems to
there's
be-
nothing you do about
That's
that.
that's the eternal struggle with this particular sector of.
Exactly. People get older, they get married, they
It's
get
hard to find
kids.
time
and,
to fit it
You
in.
know,
I know.
it's harder to go out every night and look for deer. And, it's my personal feeling.
And work a day job.
Right, and work a day job, and it's my personal feeling that, as great as the NUCOs are, and every deer is helpful, to make the big differences, you need 1 or 2 or 3 guys that are willing to take 100 deer or 75 deer. That means it becomes their job for those 2 months. And those are hard for people to find. You can find them for a period of time, and as I say, they get married, they get kids, and then they're,
Move on.
nobody wants to go out in the middle of the night and do this. So if we find 1 or 2 more over the next year or so, we'll be better off. I'm not sure it's going to make a huge difference, but it'll be better off. It'll make a difference in the number of deer. Sure. The real question is number of ticks and and the incidence of disease is my most important concern. So.
And then just to wrap this update up, right, I always cover the cold storage. It's a really pretty cool thing that we offer, for the hunters and then ultimately the community as the end user. So we had stored 88 deer this year. That obviously everything was down. That was down from 132 last year, so it's significantly less use, right? The personal use decreased as well by a similar amount, right? So that just kind of said to me that people were not only shooting less deer to donate, they were shooting less deer for themselves altogether. So that led to about 1,100 pounds of meat that was donated, down from 1,900 last year, and I think just for perspective, I think that's down from about 30, don't quote me, but I think it was like 3,800 pounds in 1 year I
I don't know if it's 30, but it was at least 3,000.
Yeah.
We used to
32.
irregular go
I figured
3,000.
we had like 2,500, I remember those figures.
Yeah, no, I think the year that we had 270 deer in the postseason, you know, I mean, we were almost 600 deer total, it was a lot of meat. So nonetheless, there's still 1,100 pounds, which is no small amount of meat donated, run through the venison donation program and consumed voraciously by our community.
Any questions for Bo? Thank you, Bo. That'll be put in as informational. Next, on the agenda is educational report from Julia.
Right, so actually, is it okay if I tie in the advertising with the education? Because it's the
Absolutely.
same, pretty much the same thing. I just know there's not a separate agenda item, but, okay, so start off with, we enacted the archery program again, and that started on the first weekend of May. So again, I run 2 classes. It's Saturday morning and Sunday morning, ages 9 to 18. We had full enrollment with a long waiting list. Cody's daughter is one of the students in my class. She loves it. Josh Potter's kids are in there too. Jess, do you have the picture from, I just took a few pictures. We had our first tournament at the end of May. So here are some of the kids out in St. Gabe's Meadow. We have targets as well as 3D animals for them to practice on. They use it's basically like a recurve / compound design bow. You can go to the next picture, just. There they are from a just different angle. And then we had our first tournament, which was, so I run tournaments at the end of every month. And this time, rather than doing individual, actually the last picture is the winners. So they're the winners of the first archery tournament. We've Sarah, Alice, Sam, and Bear Rando were the winners. And I get them like gift certificates from, I don't know, Tuck Shop. We do cornucopia, just some fun things for the kids to go for winning. And then we're now in the second session, which just started this past weekend. That'll run all the way through June. So basically every month there's a class running at archery. And just to remind everyone, the long-term goal of this, the reason why I founded this program is because obviously, as you know, Bo and Jim have gone over many times, there are a lot of hunters that are aging out or stop hunting. So it's really important to teach the next generation. So part of that is to like expose people to archery and see if a few individuals will rise to the top and maybe show an interest in doing hunting. And we have had that happen. So I just want to tell everyone that this process is long and it's slow, but it does pay off and it's quite rewarding. So last year we had 3 students who came out of this archery program who went and got their hunter safety, gun safety. They took their archery. They, of course, with DEC, they got their license and now they're actually hunting. You know, they haven't maybe gotten anything yet, but they go out with me and the 4 or 5 other mentors, which I mentioned at an earlier meeting. We've got about 4 or 5 volunteers. I'm the only one from Shelter. Actually, Doug Sherrod and I are both Shelter Islanders. The other 3 mentors are from off island, but they're friends of mine. They come to Shelter Island, they sign up with Bo, you know, for certain, days or whatever, and then they take the kids with them. We also use the funds from our program and our line to get some teaching stands, and we put those on 2 town properties. And I'm happy to say that we use them. Kids got to see deer almost every time we went out, which is for them really exciting. So the process is starting to work. The third part of that process was that, which took about a year for me, was that I wanted to get certified by DEC to teach hunter safety, archery, and trapping. Now that that's all done, because that took me about a whole year to finish all that stuff up. So now I'm certified in those 3 areas, which means that Shelter Island can run its own courses. Because usually the courses are up the island, like up in Levittown or also Huntington, and it's difficult for Shelter Islanders to get there. So having me certified here, it's easier for me to get one other instructor out, and therefore we can now move forward and teach those courses here. So I'm hoping that maybe out of this archery class, I do know of one student who's going to be taking my class, my hunter safety class. So again, the process is working, it's slow, but it's coming along, and the end game again is to instill interest in archery and hopefully get some more local hunters. So that's on the archery front. The update from Mashamik / going into the school and teaching the kids. So that, as you saw in the email, Cody, that kind of is not going to work out this year. Becca Kusa just has a lot on her agenda. And we had a couple initial correspondences with the principal of our school, and it just didn't work out with her schedule. So it looks like, unfortunately, this is the first year we're not going to be able to do the tick prevention, tick bite prevention.
Education program.
We do an educational program. I think this would have been our 4th or 5th year doing it. So we're not going to be able to do it this year. I think next year I'm just going to aim for maybe we just do it like way earlier, like try
Yeah,
April
or we need to
or
get-
March or,
Or we just need to get dates on the calendar
yeah, like a
earlier,
little bit
'cause
earlier, I think.
trying to do anything with our staff this time of year
Yeah.
last minute is
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah, it's always worked out that we had something like somewhere around the first week in June, but it just didn't work out for her schedule and school schedule. Anyway, so but we are going to still send out an email blast. We will probably compile, I'll probably compile information that went out to all the parents of all the kids that participated last year in the school program. Those parents will still get the educational email. It's just that we won't have the educational activity, which was kind of fun. But anyway, sometimes we have these hurdles and you just got to get over it. So that's one thing. And then we ran 2 ads in the Shelter Island Reporter, which you guys got copies of. Scott and I checked these over just before they went out to make sure there wasn't like any changes in like the links or whatever, and make sure the QR codes worked and all that. So these went out. This is the usual one that we send out with information about diagnosing a tick bite, how ticks transmit all these different diseases, personal protection, different kinds of sprays, repellent, how to get a tick off your body if you find one, and different resources. So that was a full page ad in the Reporter. And then our second one was Peter, gave us permission to use one of his former cartoons. And we took another thing which I developed, which was this acronym SCARED. Get it? Scared, like, okay. I thought it was clever. Anyway, SCAARED, about showering, repellents, clothes in the dryer, examine your pets, avoid tall grass, and dress appropriately. And that went out again. And then we're also going to be doing, and also just so you know, these all went out on the town's social media. And then all throughout June, July, and August, like all summer, I run ads with the town on their Instagram and Facebook, and we take that off of the county website. So it's all stuff that's been screened already from the county. Scott, gave me the green light on that. So anything I see from their website, we can just scoot over to the Shelter Island. So I'm going to be running a few. You'll see things come through in the Deer and Tick. Yeah.
Great. Just like to thank you, Julia. I think educational portion, which we started a year or 2 ago, whatever it was, years ago, has, just progressed and done a wonderful job with both, the archery program as well as everything else that you've been doing. So thank you very much for that. I think you're doing a great job with it. So that was that.
Question.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is a stupid question. But the culling is down, for whatever reasons in the drought. Does that, what's the status of the herd? Is it still growing? Or is it
Well,
reproducing as much, reproducing?
yeah, so the herd is growing. I mean, the abridged version is the herd is growing, and there's a whole bunch of components that go into that. Sorry. But anytime we're harvesting fewer deer, right, the herd is going to be growing. We're maybe 1 or 2 times in the 10 years that I've been doing this, and in the 20 years that the Deer and Tick Committee, or 20 plus years that they've been running it, have they been on the uphill side or on the right side of that curve to begin with? So in other words, if they had slowed down at that point, the herd might still have been decreasing for a short period of time. But as soon as you decrease the number of deer you're taking annually, the population is going to start moving in a increasing direction, no matter what. So there's a whole bunch of
Yeah.
parts that go with that, but yes, currently the herd is increasing, and it has been increasing for at least the past 2 years, without a doubt, without a doubt.
If I remember correctly, have you brought in professional hunters before?
So
Is that possible?
I think it depends on what you are talking about when you refer to professional hunters. The program, mercenaries, the program that we run during the nuisance portion of our season is arguably using professional hunters, okay? It's individuals who have been licensed by the state to, they've taken a test, they've got a license, nuisance wildlife control operator license. It is a license that you are required to have to harvest deer for hire, harvest any animal for hire, technically, right? Typically, it's something that you would get to trap and kill raccoons for people or something of that nature. But it is also something that you would need to be paid to remove deer under the authority of a deer damage permit. And that's a program that we've been running here for the past 5 years, so or maybe even more at this point.
That's part of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Now, those people are not, they're hunters that have taken on the additional responsibility and interest to go and obtain the license and then pursue through initially my direction, increasing their ability, right, to take large numbers of deer, right? That is not the same thing as like a certified sharpshooter working for USDA or working for a government, non-government organization contracting for a federal agency, right? Sharpshooters that come in and things like that. Separate things. They may be the same person, right? I was a NUCO, I was also a certified sharpshooter, right? Those aren't necessarily the same things. Our NUCOs are not at that level, right? They're not going to work for currently, they're not working for any of those organizations or anything like that. We're not contracting with any of those, either government or non-government organizations. This is solely something that's in-house, modeled after other programs like this elsewhere.
And do we currently pay people to cull the deer?
Functional, yes, during the NUCO, yeah, yep. Yep.
So that's part of your budget.
That's in the budget, yep. The deer reduction management line covers that.
I mean, and if the culling's going down, should we be looking to hire more of these professional cullers?
That's,
Easier sense
it's functionally, we sort of touched on that just before a little bit, right? So,
That's because we're about to go to the budget season.
right. Developing that from using functionally homegrown personnel, right? Which has always been one of the objectives, right? Is to not hire JQ sharpshooter from West Virginia, who, and, you know, their crew and bring them in, right? That historically had very negative consequences from the social and political spectrum, right? It was not viewed as a desirable concept. Maybe that's since changed, but so there was always a very significant push to rely on recreational hunters as much as possible for just general harvest, which is what we do. Take and enhance any local or local-ish recreational hunters that are interested and give them the tools, the strategy, the space, fill in the blank, whatever they need to try and get up more towards that professional level, which over the years, we've had, I think, 6 or 7 different folks who have actually done that exact thing. And then they have participated at various levels throughout the years. As we just mentioned, you know, one of our most productive NUCOs last year didn't participate at all this year, right? So for life things got in the way, so on and so forth. So that differs a little bit from if we were to contract for services, right? And then you have, there's some expectations, we're gonna hire you for this, there's output needs to be achieved. That's not the level that this particular program is at. It's something that could be reexamined again. It's been reexamined numerous times over the course of the past 10, 20 years. And there was never a very large appetite for that pursuit here. But again, things change and maybe time to reexamine it.
This was discussed in depth, okay? I don't know, 7, 10 years ago, or maybe when I first came out, about when we were gonna go to a culling program, about bringing in professional organizations. Two things about that, or three things about that, is they've been done in South Hold Town at one point, 20 years ago, and was not very successful. Also caused an awful lot of public dissent about it, okay, about bringing in people to kill deer, which, may have changed since that time, because the concept of killing deer, harvesting deer, has probably changed to some degree. The other thing that I feel on it is that where these organizations are maybe successful, if they ever are, okay, and they may be at times, is when they can maximize the way they hunt. And that's the most efficient way, and I'll ask Bo to agree with me or disagree with me, is to shoot deer from a truck with a high-powered rifle, with a silencer on that rifle, okay? And so they bait them, they come in, and there's technique of shooting the one certain doe, and then, they're able to shoot them there. You cannot do that on Shelter Island or Suffolk County, with the exception of federal property, okay? So I am not 100% sure how successful they would be as far as, being able to take that harvest down. They'd have to do it more or less the way we do it, okay, or, Bo has organized us to do it. And you're not paying by the deer, you're paying by the man hour, the man day. And I suspect it would be very expensive, and I'm not 100% sure how successful it would be. If people are ready for another debate on that, let it happen, okay? But I'm not sure. The other thing that we did was, when we first discussed it, the majority of the deer on this island were taken by recreational hunters. And it was a significant number that was being taken by recreational hunters. And we did not want to piss them off, upset them, okay? Excuse my language.
Just say it.
Not in the minutes, please. Because there was some resentment that if they're coming in, they're gonna kill all the deer and everything else. Not that they were gonna do much better than our recreational hunters were, that it was probably not a good idea to do that, since the majority of our deer were being taken by recreational hunters. So that's where it was, let's just say 7 or 8, 10 years ago, whenever I first came on the committee, and that debate was going on significantly.
And also I think the second concern was the processing of the meat. Now, I don't know if all cases this is true, but when we use the NUCO program, those same people butcher all that meat for the public.
Right.
So we're harvesting a deer, then you're in charge
Right.
of butchering it, and then it goes out to everyone in Shelter Island.
You know,
So you have control of the
Right,
process.
and not that these organizations aren't professional, probably work very well and very professional, and Bo knows them better than I do, but it was felt that keeping it local was probably a better way to get some public acceptance of that. So anyhow, we've had that debate before.
It's helping more sustainable, but trying to do as much local work as you can.
Right,
And I'm just trying to educate myself to all this.
right.
These questions from any weird way.
Yeah, no, in my personal opinion, the ideal thing was, again, if we could find 2 or 3 people that were really wanted to take the months of, February and March and really help us out with harvesting, and they were gonna make significant money out of that. But it's not easy to define those people, and it's definitely not easy to find them and keep them for 5, 7, 10, 12 years, okay? You might find 1 or 2 for a year or 2,
Yeah.
but then it's hard to keep.
I mean,
It's very easy to find the people who say they will do it.
Right, I'm talking about the guys. The guys that actually
It's
take.
impossible to find the people who actually do.
I was just thinking maybe we could start to consider like a way to reach out to anyone wants to take the NUCO training.
Well, that's,
I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe,
no,
I
I mean, if anybody, I don't know the way to reach
Well, we
out.
have to
and-
think about who,
So quite frequently, right, just because we don't have people doesn't mean that we're not talking to people and having discussions. So quite frequently, I get phone calls all year long,
Right,
right, from usually hunters who are affiliated with Suffolk County Archery Program, right, Suffolk County Parks Archery Program. And the conversation, in a condensed version, usually says, yeah, I'll come out there and kill all of your deer for you. I would love to. And I said, okay, well, come on out, recreationally hunt, right? Sign up with us, let's do that. And then if you show up and if you are a willing and good participant, then we could talk about this other option, because they have already usually heard. And you pay people to kill does, I'll shoot all your does. Okay, no problem. Go get this license. Here's what we're gonna expect you to do. Go out, hunt these beat these properties, hunt these properties, kill these deer, recover the deer, butcher the deer, make them available, and then after that's all said and done, we'll pay you. And I have nobody that gets past maybe the second phone call, right?
To be paid for a head?
So there's a whole matrix that we have. It's a whole system that's been devised. So we start off paying a certain rate for adult does and then a slightly reduced rate for all other deer that they harvest. Again, because we're trying to force people into that, right? The initial, I think we raised it last year, $275 for an adult female and then $150 for any other deer. If you are successful in getting at least 20 or more, we up each one of those amounts, I believe by $75 per deer. If you are successful in getting to 30, we up it again. So at the end of the day, potentially, somebody who's harvesting their 35th deer, and that deer happens to be an adult female, that person could be making $475 to cut that deer up and deliver it to us.
And you're still not getting people to do it.
And I had 23 deer taken pursuant to that program, total between two people. Right? So it sounds like a lot of money, and when we see deer in our side yard and we think, oh, well, why don't they just come and shoot these ones? Again, there are so many factors that go into that, not the least of which is the legal considerations and the safety considerations, right? So we have to satisfy.
Because not every property can be hunted.
Right. And so,
To that effect, to that too, they all have to pass Bo's muster in that he's not gonna be getting calls from our citizens. There's somebody tracking there, there's a gut pile in my backyard and there's this and somebody just, is.
so it may come as a surprise to some people, but when you start to incentivize people to produce a result with money, occasionally those people may be inclined to push the envelope of what is allowed or expected to try to capitalize on that financial incentive. So we have to constantly be on top of and aware of that and trying to monitor that, make sure that we stay between those 2 points, right? Where we're successfully incentivizing people to get up and go, but not incentivizing them to ultimately do something unsafe or illegal. We got to try to maintain that balance all the time.
I'm not just asking for myself, I'm asking for anybody who
Sure.
watch this on YouTube.
Sure.
Because a lot of people don't understand what goes into
Right.
this and what
Right.
overall factors are.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Is
Just a question, aside from the county archery program, is there any hunters from Oak Island that come?
Oh, yeah.
In our program,
Yeah,
almost all of the hunters enrolled in our program are not residents of Shelter Island.
really?
Yeah.
The
majority-
That's the general program, not necessarily
The majority of the resident hunters, right, or hunters who live on Shelter Island do not participate in this. They don't need the access, they don't need to add requirements to their daily hunt. So they go on their own property, they hunt private property. It's significantly more productive to hunt on private property than town property that gets constantly, pressured, right? The county hunters, we've enrolled 70 plus people over the years that I've been now dealing with the county since they've requested that we extend an invitation to them. The overwhelming majority of those hunters have never harvested a deer here, and the majority of them have never hunted more than just the one time that they wanted to come and hunt here. So again, there's a lot of interest. There's always a lot of interest. But then the realities of all of the thing, just getting here, right? If you're a Suffolk County resident, lives in Huntington, and you want to come hunt on Shelter Island, you got to be on the ferry at 5 o'clock, right? And then pay the ferry fee, whatever that happens to be, to come across.
Then you can only hunt the afternoon because you'll miss morning light.
Because you got so, right, so there's so many things that go into it. Perhaps you want to come and spend the night before, right? But it's expensive to find a place to stay on Shelter Island for one night in, let's say Thanksgiving weekend.
Right.
When they have the time to come, right? So there's a lot of things that we've tried to address, many of them. Many of those things were addressed with the tagging availability, with the butchering, with the venison donation, with the cold storage for personal deer, right? But short of buying a house and letting hunters stay in them.
It's called affordable housing. Have you guys heard about
Actually, I
that yet?
do that. I have a couple hunters that stay at my house because they can't afford the $500 a night or whatever. it would be.
I have one that stays at my house.
I have two at my house.
Try to get them out of my house. So yes, there's
It's not productive.
it
Very.
is a program that relies on recreational harvest, right? That's the base of what we're attempting to do. And recreational harvest is not designed to reduce deer populations. Recreational harvest is designed to maintain a sustainable population for recreational purposes. That number in high density areas like this, that mindset in high density areas like this results in more deer all the time. Just the deer factories.
In the big woods, Adirondacks, stuff like that, they don't have this problem as much. Deer get overpopulated, they eat themselves out, and the next year they don't have as many fawns. They have a bad winter, they lose, half the fawns that year. So they have predators, they have coyotes and a little bobcat here and there. So so it maintains itself much better than a residential area. So like we see here, as well as they see in most, small neighborhood or, more suburbia. Suburbia is where the real problem is starting to develop or has developed. So, it's a very difficult problem. And I can quote, the head of what do you call White Buffalo on an article several years ago, basically said, the deer are here to stay, get used to them, deal with it. And that's why we've shifted an awful lot of our emphasis on education about disease prevention, which is what we're hoping to do, okay? And that's all about, taking care of yourself, protecting yourself, watching what you do, check the kids, check the dog, So that's where most of our efforts going right now, which is the most important part of it, okay? So.
So, bro, you owe me $275 for the deer that hit my car?
Unless it was a big doe, if it's the 21st one you hit, then I owe you more.
All right.
Technically, the town board pays, so I guess you owe yourself.
Anything else? So Julie, you took care of, that was part of the advertisement, was what
Yeah, I
you were
did
gonna
both
do
already,
too, right? Anything else? Old business? I can't even read the name. Oh, I know
Well,
why.
you had old business in.
Yeah, and that was about,
Our next meeting?
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
September.
old business. So when's the next meeting? It's already been
On here is August 6th.
Oh, August.
August, right?
Okay. Oh, so we'll be going over like our table for green options.
Probably we'll be talking about green option, yep, okay, which we will probably be asked to do and we'll do this year again. Any new business anybody wants to bring up?
Next one, you'll do number 10?
Yeah, we always do a table.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do it, we've done it for the last 5 years, maybe 6 years.
And we have a nice new fake deer that we put up. That's how we're balloon. Remember we had the fake deer?
Yeah,
You still dress up?
I still have my costume, yes. It's gone under repair, but it's still holding on. It's holding on desperately.
any new business? Any questions or concerns from the board, want to bring up anything?
Me.
Anything from Dean? They don't go on Zoom.
Oh, he sits in on a lot of meetings.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any questions or not.
Obviously, the whole disease thing.
Was that,
I hear nothing but increasing complaints about people getting.
he's on, I don't know.
Worst year ever.
Yeah.
Every year.
Every year.
Every year.
Any questions or concerns from people online on the website? There being no further, I'll ask for a motion to
I'll
adjourn.
make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, everybody.